Welcome, ladies, to our webinar. Today we are with Dr. Melissa, and I love Dr. Melissa's energy is flat out amazing, but I love how she helps women to truly make change in their life so that they're able to feel better and live better. And so we have lots of different topics that we're going to tackle with her on different webinars, but tonight we're going to be specifically talking about energy. Dr. Melissa works remotely with people as well as in her facility. She currently is in Toronto. So if you are in Toronto, you can reach out to her. If you're not in Toronto, that's not a problem. Reach out to her and she can definitely still help you wherever you are. So Melissa, feel free to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about what you do, and then we can get into the energizing portion of the evening.
Great. Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this talk with everyone. This is my first online webinar, so I'm sorry if I have any technical difficulties while I'm doing it. So as Vanessa said, my name is Melissa Dakota. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I have a general practice, so I see a lot of different health conditions, but I practice downtown Toronto and in Oakville, or I can do Skype. And I focus a lot on stress and weight management because one of my clinics is actually in a gym. So I do a lot of that, a lot of digestive concerns, sleep, mood, specifically anxiety, and fatigue. Fatigue is a really big one that I see a lot of practice. So that's why I really am excited to do this webinar. As a naturopathic doctor, I have a evidence-based whole person approach to patient care. So I like to kind of dive into a person and know all about them, their lifestyle, their work, everything, so we can figure out how to kind of tailor a treatment plan. I'm also very passionate about integrative medicine. So all my clinics, I work with chiropractors, RMTs, physiotherapists, because I think it's really important to not just see one health provider, but to see everyone so you can get every part of your life covered. I also really encourage my patients to see their medical doctors because I think it's important to get everything covered from a medical perspective. And I also like to empower my patients to take control of their health. So I do this by, for example, if I do blood work with you, I'm going to sit with you and explain all the results, what I'm testing, why I'm testing, what we're going to do with those results, because I think it's important for everyone to learn why we're doing things and to educate yourself so that you can kind of take control of your own health. So as a naturopathic doctor, we have a lot of things in our toolkit that we like to pull from. But for me, I really like to focus a lot on nutrition and diet. I think this is the base for health. And not just general healthy eating, but specifically eating for your health concerns. Because, for example, one healthy food might be good for one person, but not for another. So it's really important to eat, then tailor it to your body. I do add supplements, and they're supposed to be just as that supplemental to a healthy diet and lifestyle. So vitamins, minerals, I'll add these in at therapeutic doses to help with certain health conditions. Botanical medicine, so herbal medicine, tinctures, teas, these can be great things to add. I'm also trained in traditional Chinese medicine, so I like to include acupuncture. This can be great for sleep, anxiety, regulating hormones. So I do see some pregnancy in my practice, IVF therapy. It's really great to use acupuncture. And naturopathic doctors, not everyone knows this, but we can actually do all the same blood work that your family doctor can do. It's just not covered under OHIP, is the only difference. But we can still run all the same blood work, which I do use a lot in practice. I do a lot of food sensitivity testing, hormone panels, so we can kind of get more info to help guide treatment. After I went to naturopathic school in Toronto, I actually got additional training to do injection therapy, so I can do B12 injections, vitamin D injections, and intravenous nutrient therapy, so all those fancy drips and hangover IVs that you may have heard of. We use those in practice, but more specifically for certain health conditions, and energy is a huge one that we do IVs for.
Can you go back to that slide?
Yes.
I want to ask you just a general question about naturopathic medicine. And so many people think that
Yeah.
It'll take you a long time to see results, right? Like when we're talking about botanical medicine or cupping, if people are doing these things, I mean, obviously it depends on why they're doing them, but when can they start to see results when working with a naturopathic doctor?
That's a really good question, because it's very important to keep in mind when you're working with natural therapies and stuff like this. So it really comes down to what we're dealing with. So is this, a digestive concern or insomnia or something that only happened in the last month? So I always say if you've been experiencing it for, let's say, 3 months, then expect a third of the time for you to start to see results and to feel better. So if you come to me and you've been having these issues for the past 5 years, then expect to put 6 months, 12 months work into changing diet, trying therapies. The studies for acupuncture usually are no shorter than 12 weeks. So 3 months of acupuncture before you start to see a benefit. So that's a really good question. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Love it. I mean, I love acupuncture, cupping, and it's so useful, but I know a lot of people get frustrated when using those modalities because they don't stick with it long enough.
Of course. And
Yeah.
one great thing too, at one of my clinics, there's actually a licensed acupuncturist. So some people, they'll come with their coverage, and it's hard to see me so many times. So if you see me and the acupuncturist, you can kind of continue the treatment longer than you would have.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's why it's important to see different practitioners so you can keep up the treatment as long as you can. Yes, that's really great. Okay, good. So diving into energy, which is the main reason we're all here. Energy is super important to monitor. I find a lot of my patients come in, even with other health conditions, headaches, other reasons, but then I always ask about energy because I ask about every part of your life. And they'll say, oh, it's fine. It could be better. It's low sometimes. And energy is very important to monitor because it can be one of the first telltale signs that something is off. Something is off, and if we don't address it, it can turn into a condition or a symptom or an illness. So the first thing we need to do if we're looking at energy is kind of define it. So before we start treating it and figuring out what's wrong, the actual definition is energy is the strength and vitality required for sustained physical and mental activity. So what that means is, can you get through your day and do the things that you want to do? Now, when I ask people about energy, there's usually two different types, and I always like to ask and differentiate between both because that can help me decide what's causing your low energy. So is it physical fatigue? Are you feeling like you're a runner and you exercise a lot and all of a sudden you can't run as far as you could before? You're exercising the same amount, but you're feeling sore a lot longer. You're not recovering as quickly as you used to. Are you feeling weak, physically weak in your muscles and your arms? These are important questions because it'll help me figure out what's causing the fatigue. But I find the majority of the time it's mental fatigue. So you're having trouble focusing at work, your motivation is lower. And one symptom that I find people don't really tie into being tired or energy-wise is irritability. So are you feeling short-fused? You're getting mad at people more than you normally would, and you're kind of maybe blaming it on coworkers or something else. That's time to kind of check in with yourself and see where your energy levels are at. Also tied into mental fatigue, are you feeling like you don't have a lot of boundaries anymore? You find yourself overeating, stress eating, or it could be the total opposite and you're just having no appetite at all. So that can be tied to energy. Now that you kind of defined what your energy is and what kind of low energy you're having, it's really important to be able to track your progress. So every patient I have, I'll ask them, and you can do it right now. If 10 is the highest amount of energy you have, today, for instance, out of 10, what was your energy? Was it 5? Was it 3? Was it high in the morning, low in the afternoon? Was it low all day and then it peaks at night? This really helps me know, are your cortisol levels off? Are they not going up in the morning? Are you having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning? We need to track this so that if we start doing treatments, adding supplements, diet, IV therapy, we know that it's working. So then we can track it with a number. Another thing is like I can give a scale. So it's a questionnaire, 10 questions, you rate them out of 5, and that'll give me a score. And then we can do it every 6 weeks, every 2 months, to make sure that things are getting better and not worse. So let me go back. All right, so now we know how to track it and how to define energy. Also, another really important thing is figuring out what affects your energy on a day-to-day. This kind of graphic, and I found this picture from an article on fatigue related to inflammatory bowel disease. It really helped me make my 5R strategy for energy. So, for instance, some of the really important ones are deficiencies. Are you low in certain nutrients? That can cause fatigue. Psychological things that are happening, depression, anxiety. A symptom is fatigue, but is your fatigue causing you depression, or is depression causing your fatigue? It's a chicken or egg. So you really need to dive deeper into that to figure out which one is causing it. If there's mood related issues, lifestyle, are you eating the right foods? We're going to talk about exercise and diet for sure. A lot of new research is coming out about the gut microbiome and how the gut bacteria in your stomach not only affect digestion and bloating, but also your immune system, neurotransmitters. Every aspect of your body can start in your gut. So that's really important, and we need to address your stomach if we're going to look at anything else related to energy or other things like that. Another one, which I probably want to
have a question about that, because
yeah.
I know there's so many tests now that people are promoting. I don't know if you're going to get into that, but what is the best way for us to test the microbiome?
Sure. So there are a lot of like stool cultures. The best one I would do is the one that your family doctor would do, and they're not really testing your gut flora. They're going to be testing for parasites and things like that. But the problem with a lot of the gut tests that are looking at different levels of bacteria is that I don't know that a certain level of bacteria, which might be good for you, might not be good for someone else. So it's not defined yet in the literature of what a good microbiome would be for everybody. So I kind of base it more off symptoms than anything. So if you're feeling great and everything, that's usually how we would do it. That's a really good question, because there are a lot of them out there. And the last thing, which is on this graph, is like the inflammation in blue. I'm not really going to talk too much about that, but that's also something that can cause a lot of fatigue, just like a chronic fatigue. If you're inflamed, it could be from underlying illnesses. If you have autoimmune conditions, if you have an inflammatory lifestyle, so you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, not exercising, this can cause issues, and so that needs to be addressed. So, apparently I have trouble with this. So that graph is kind of what helped sparked. I know I said it was my 4R strategy, but I added one more R. It's my 5R strategy to help you maximize your energy. So number 1, rule out deficiencies. No matter if we start changing your diet, adding all these herbal supplements, doing acupuncture, but if you're deficient and you're anemic, you're low in B12, before we correct that, it's not going to really help. So that's really important to do. Making sure you're getting enough sleep. Are you restoring your energy levels enough with sleep? So addressing sleep is number 2 for me. And I see that in practice. When you restore someone's sleep, it can really help a lot. So I wrote the best way to wake up in the morning, and it's not coffee, it's exercise. So that's a really great way to boost your energy levels throughout the day. It balances your cortisol levels. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to get that into your life on a day-to-day. Always reassess your diet. Are you getting enough nutrients in your diet? Are you eating the right foods? Are you eating foods that are crashing your energy in the afternoon? So diet is important, but it's kind of lower on my list as long as we get all those other things in. And the last R that I added, which I don't know how I forgot, but is so important, is to rest. If you're not resting and you're burning the candle at both ends and you're really, really busy, your energy will kind of slowly decline. So we need to make sure that that is taken care of. And I'll also talk at the end a little bit about IV nutrient therapy and why it's so good for energy and how I use it in practice. All right, so let's jump into the first R, ruling out deficiencies. So I like to rule out, if you're low in certain nutrients, but also imbalances that can happen. So in blood sugar and thyroid hormones. And I also like to do blood tests because it's a quantitative measurement. So it's a number that's giving me that I can track. The number isn't always going to reflect how you're feeling, but it's good for me and it helps with my treatment. So I always like to run those. So how I measure it is with blood work. I like to do general blood work, same ones you do with your family doctor. And when should you get blood work done? So normally if you've been feeling tired for more than 2 weeks, and this is not because your child has been up for 2 weeks and you actually just have not slept. This is in your day-to-day life, you're just feeling like you're doing the same things, but you're a little more tired. You have to nap more. You're drinking, that extra cup of coffee in the afternoon. So that's really when you should get your blood test done. Also, if you're taking certain medications can, and there's a few of them, can cause nutrient deficiencies. And this is well noted in the literature. So one, for example, that I see a lot is OCP, which is oral contraceptive pill, and that's the birth control pill. Any hormones that you're on will deplete certain nutrients, especially B12, folic acid, magnesium, which is important for energy. But also, if you're on the birth control pill and you're planning to get pregnant, you really need to replenish your folic acid levels because that's very important for pregnancy. PPIs, which are for heartburn, they block the absorption of certain nutrients like B12 and magnesium. Statins are for cholesterol, antibiotics, not as much of a worry because you're only really on them for probably a couple of weeks, but they can deplete a lot of nutrients. Blood pressure medications are really important. Metformin. So these are all medications that I see commonly in practice that a lot of people can be on. And you have to make sure you're either supplementing with something or figuring out a way that we can get you off them somehow. So there's different types of nutrient deficiencies. Frank deficiency, this is the one that is not very common in developed or in Canada and the United States. That's kind of like if you don't eat enough vitamin C and you get scurvy. That's not as common, although there's been more cases of scurvy in the United States recently, which is surprising. So people are really not eating enough whole foods. And then there's subclinical deficiency, which means it's happening, you're deficient, but you're not seeing symptoms yet. And this is the key and the base for preventative medicine. So catching these deficiencies before you start to actually have symptoms, but fatigue is one that you may experience, but you don't really think it's a symptom. You think it's just your life is really busy. So we want to make sure you're not deficient in anything. So that's why we would run blood work. Other possible causes of nutrient deficiency. So there's 3 main routes that you can become deficient. So one is undersupply. So you're either not eating enough, you're eating processed foods, you're not getting enough whole foods, you're too busy and you're only eating 1 meal a day. Or if your digestive system is compromised, so if you do have Crohn's or colitis or inflammatory bowel conditions, or you just have a lot of heartburn and you have a lot of indigestion, you might have inflammation in your digestive tract and you're not absorbing enough nutrients. The second one is if you're eating enough, but it's getting depleted somehow. So either we went over medications, but alcohol is a big one. Alcohol and caffeine are diuretics, so you're going to lose a lot of magnesium, calcium, electrolytes. Also, alcohol is processed by the liver, and it uses up a lot of B vitamins when you're drinking alcohol for your body to detox it. So it's depleting B vitamins, which are important for energy, metabolism, so many enzymatic reactions in your body. Sweating, which is super healthy and is one of the best ways to detox. But if you're not replenishing electrolytes, you can become deficient in certain minerals. High intensity exercise, you're going to be burning through your B vitamins and your minerals a lot quicker. So it's great to exercise, but you have to make sure you're either supplementing or doing something with your diet. Heavy, long, frequent periods, you're losing iron. You can become anemic. It is not uncommon for women who are menstruating to be anemic. So talking about high iron foods or supplementing with iron is important. The third one is demand. So you're eating enough, you're not depleting, but your body's need for certain nutrients will go up. So if you're injured, if you had a surgery, if you're sick, your demand, for example, if you have a cold, your demand for vitamin C can go up by like 5 times. You need to take much more vitamin C than you normally would. If you're pregnant, your demand for calcium and folic acid doubles, and all the other nutrients. You're feeding 2 human beings, and when you're breastfeeding, you need to make sure you're getting enough nutrients and not becoming deficient.
Can
So,
you comment on how, you don't need to go back, but can you comment on how paleo and keto diet and all these new trends, how does that factor into nutrients?
yeah. All those diets, I like all of them. They're all kind of trendy, but good. They're all whole food diets. So if you're eating whole foods, whether you want to eat more meat, less meat, more fat, it's up to you. The only one of those, the ketogenic diet, it's very extreme. And because it's such high fat, it's going to deplete nutrients. So that's one diet in particular I would supplement with.
Okay.
But yeah, all the other ones, as long as they're whole food diets, whatever works for you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So just some examples of blood tests that I would run normally if you came in and said you were having fatigue. So I would run what they call a complete blood count. So that's measuring your red and white blood cells. That can tell a lot to me at the size of your red blood cells, your immune system. That's the marker, and that's the test you would run if I was checking for anemia, which means you're low in red blood cells. Ferritin, which is your iron stores. This is really important to run because roughly 30% of women have low ferritin. 50% of pregnant women have low ferritin. Now, this is measuring iron stores, not your iron levels. You may have low ferritin and not be anemic. You may not have actual low red blood cells. But there was a study that they did, and women who took iron supplements just to raise their iron stores just felt better, even though they didn't really change their blood value that much. It can be good to supplement with iron if your stores are a little bit low. B12 is a really important one to run because B12 is actually really hard to absorb. You need something called intrinsic factor in your digestive system. Some people are just genetically lower in that, so they don't absorb it. Some people really associate B12 and iron with a vegetarian diet, but you can actually the rates of B12 deficiency are equal between vegetarians and meat eaters. So it's not just because you're eating meat, you won't be low in B12. And if you are low, I do a lot of B12 injections in clinic, and those can really help give a nice boost in energy. Magnesium is really important. We can run that. So it's been shown that magnesium deficiency, which is an electrolyte, can lead to cardiovascular issues. And there's one study that even showed it can lead to earlier mortality, which was related to cardiovascular issues. So magnesium is really important for muscle function, calming your nervous system, helping with sleep is a huge one. I'd run your blood sugar levels because if blood sugar's off, it can cause fatigue and crashes in the afternoon. Thyroid hormones, a lot of people turn to that blood test first, but I haven't in practice actually seen a lot of issues with thyroid tied to energy, like on a day-to-day basis, unless you were diagnosed with a certain thyroid condition. But I will still run it to make sure it's normal. Other blood tests, you can run inflammation markers. We can run liver function, kidney function, making sure your body is detoxing properly. Vitamin D, which majority of the population is low in vitamin D, so it's important to run. And something called monospot test, which is ruling out mono. So you could be tired, but we just want to make sure you don't have an illness or a viral infection that we should be treating in a completely different way than I would treat any other type of fatigue. So that was ruling out deficiencies. So we've done that. Let's say we did blood tests and everything is fine, or we corrected something that was low. So now we have to work on your sleep. So sleep is super important to help restore energy levels. So how much should you be getting? 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. And I asked a patient this once, and she's like, oh, I get 8 hours of sleep over 3 days. No, it should be all in one night. And it should be quality sleep. So we want to make sure that you're getting into REM sleep, you're getting the restoration that you need. Some of the issues that I saw, and it was on the Facebook group, they did a poll, and it was interesting to see a few people do experience this, is the main 3 is trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, or waking unrefreshed. Trouble falling asleep can be a lot of reasons. Your mind is racing. You're just not tired. Your cortisol is spiking. So it's usually related to stress. So we work on stress management. Or you're waking up during the night. Is your partner snoring? Is it loud outside? Is your room too light? Do you have kids, animals? Sometimes you can't avoid getting up during the night, but we want to make sure you're getting back to sleep quickly so you can at least get as many hours as you can. Waking unrefreshed can be a harder one to deal with because that's usually more stress related. Your cortisol is not going up in the morning like it should. So we need to address it. We can do it with herbs, with lifestyle, but that one takes a little bit longer to treat and see results with, but can be helped. One thing maybe you can answer in the chat section, but I always ask, do you use sleep aids? Do you have a glass of wine before bed? Do you use marijuana? That's a big one that's coming out, CBD, which seems to be really beneficial for sleep. Not so much THC, but CBD. Alcohol, if you're using things like alcohol or Gravol or even prescription medication sleeping pills, they don't let you get into REM sleep. So you might be passed out for 8 hours, but you're not actually restoring your energy levels. And some of them can be addictive, so then you need it to sleep, and it's not great. Alcohol also has a very short half-life, so you'll drink it, you'll fall asleep for a few hours, and then you wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So that's not what we want to happen. So if you're not getting enough sleep and you can't avoid it, you're a new mom, that type of thing, naps are key. So it's actually something called sleep banking. So people who work shift work will nap, and if they nap, their performance at work is just as good as if they had an 8-hour night's sleep. So the great time to sleep is probably a 40-minute nap, because you can get in like a full sleep cycle, and you don't wake up too groggy. And the best time is usually early afternoon, if you can. Probably can't if you're working or anything like that, but if you can get sleep or naps in, it's a good thing. So try and get those.
We have quite a few questions actually in the chat box about sleep.
Okay.
So, and let me know if you're going to address these, but trouble getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
Are you going to address some solutions, or should we go into that now?
So let me, I don't really have too much to address it in particular, but trouble waking up in the morning is a big one.
Yeah.
That's usually cortisol level. So I would give something like ashwagandha. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. These are herbs. They're called adaptogens. So ashwagandha, ginseng, rhodiola. These are great kind of quick fixes. And again, you would take them and you'd expect a month or so. Exercising during the day is a huge one to help balance cortisol levels. But those are the big ones. And then sometimes it's a lot of self-care. So meditation, reframing your idea around stress. Stress is actually a good thing if we can use it and kind of focus it in a good direction. So it's a lot of counseling and that type of thing. And I kind of take it more on a person-to-person basis, because sometimes it can be a lifestyle stress or it can be a physical stress. Are they ill? Are they recovering from something? So depending on what they're coming in with is how I would treat that one.
Yeah, I find I did hormone testing, which was super beneficial because it tests exactly what you're saying, your cortisol levels. So if you're struggling in the morning. And this also, whoever's asking this question, Maria, it might also go to your evening routines. Like if you're feeling stressed in the evening, or you're having a lot of technology and you're not getting that preparation for your sleep, whatever you do before you go to bed, you marinate in that for 8 hours or however long you're sleeping. So go back to your evening routines and see if you're setting yourself up for success for the morning. I know when I wanted to wake up earlier, I had to go back to my evening routines to make that happen. So we have some other questions.
Yeah.
What if they don't sleep long? So let's say 6 hours, but they're feeling rested. Is this, and I hear this all the time, people say even less, 4 or 5 hours and I feel fine. Are they tricking themselves that they feel fine, or are they really fine?
It's true. Some people don't need as much sleep. I'd want to know how old they were, because as you get older, that doesn't work as well. But if you're generally sleeping 6 hours, no trouble falling asleep, not waking up, not tired during the day, all these things, not getting sick. If you're feeling great, then maybe you don't need that much sleep. Not as many people, I think, who say they need less sleep actually probably need more. But that could just be that their stress levels are good, but they haven't kind of worn out yet. They haven't burnt the candle at both ends yet.
Right. So it's more looking at the preventative so that it doesn't do long-term damage.
Exactly. So like starting those self-care routines, even though you're not sleeping that much, at least knowing how to meditate, do yoga, taking time for yourself, as long as you're doing those things, yes, exactly, to prevent yourself from all of a sudden feeling really tired in the morning. And I will talk more about sleep hygiene, which is a really good thing that you brought up.
Very cool. Yeah, ladies. So if you have any more questions and those answered your questions, just keep them coming. But yeah, it's important. I know actually to give, if you guys are listening, so when I did my hormone test, I also, and that was a urine test. So that was the one that I had done. It was really cool because it also tests your cortisol throughout the day. So what I saw in my test was that I was good. I had my good cortisol in the morning, but by 9-10 p.m., like I was burnt. I run through all my cortisol in my day, and my sleep is so important. And I never realized I was so cranky in the evening where like I needed to go to bed. And I always thought that something was wrong with me and I needed my 8 to 9 hours sleep. But when I did my test, it kind of justified, nope, that's my body, and really understanding my body to know how my body works best.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The tests are great for that because you can see it in a graph. You can see it, the numbers and what it looks like, and you're not wondering why you're like that.
Yeah.
That's a really good. And to your point of waking up tired, another thing too that I forgot to mention is doing a sleep study with your doctor can also be really important. Especially you may have something like the starting of sleep apnea, which can be more common than we think. And if you have sleep apnea, you really need to address that, because I can't give you any sleep aids, because if I put you into a deeper sleep, it actually makes it worse and you get more tired in the morning. So those are things that are a little trickier. So getting like hormone tests done or going to see your doctor and getting a sleep study done can really help figure out how to treat it better. Okay. So sleep hygiene. So as Vanessa was saying, looking to your nighttime routine and kind of going through the steps. I always give all my patients, I go through all of this to making sure we're covering the basics. And if you're doing all these things and you're still feeling tired, then we need to dive a little deeper. But so setting a routine, and one thing that's really important, and it's actually more in the morning, but your sleep routine, you should always be getting up at the same time every morning. So a lot of people, they say, I go to bed at the same time every night, but I wake up early during the week and then I sleep in on the weekends. It really sets your cycle and your circadian rhythm better, and your cortisol peaks and lows if you can get up at the same time. Even if it's earlier on the weekend or something like that, trying to do that is important. Light is also very important. So not just dimming your lights at night. So maybe 2 hours before bed, starting to turn down all the lights. But getting light during the day is also very important to help making sure your cortisol and everything is functioning properly. So if anyone's ever tried those light therapy, you can buy those lights on Amazon where it's a bulb and it kind of acts like the sun. In the winter, it's great. And while you're getting ready in the morning for work, if you turn it on for 30 minutes and just have it near you or on your counter, that can really help set your sleep cycle a little bit better.
Is that those like red light therapy as well? Or what kind of light is it? Do you know?
It's just like, I forget the actual name of it. No, it's not the red light therapy. It's just like it has to be a certain brightness, but it's to mimic the sun. You can get them online.
They also have alarms with those.
Yes, those are great ways to wake up.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one too. Exercising in the morning. Best way to wake up in the morning. It gives you good energy. It sets your blood sugar in the right spot, your cortisol levels throughout the rest of the day. Early afternoon is also good when you're starting to feel that low. If you just kind of get your heart rate up for a little bit, it'll kind of get your energy going. Not great to exercise within an hour or two right before bed, because that'll give you a bit of energy and then you'll have a hard time falling asleep. Of course, avoiding caffeine. So some people are more sensitive to caffeine than others. I also like to do genetic testing in my practice. So naturopaths can't requisition genetic testing, but I can analyze any tests you've done. So if you did 23andMe, Ancestry DNA, I can take the data, analyze it with a program that's made for naturopaths based on research, and I can look how your body processes alcohol, detoxing, things like that, to make sure that you're actually getting rid of caffeine and things like that, that you can sleep throughout the night. Make it a routine. So at night, do the same thing. So an hour before bed, try and do no screens. Blue light from screens and even just light in general will actually shut down the production of melatonin in your brain. So you can't get to sleep. You won't feel tired. You can buy those blue light glasses, or you can try. It's better to just read a book, do stretching, talk with your partner, do something without a screen in front of you. Making sure your room is dark. And by dark, I mean you can't see your hand in front of your face. That's how dark it should be, almost pitch black. Any amount of light in your room when you're sleeping, you won't get into a fully deep sleep. And that's even just a little red light or a blue light in the corner. Your room should be cold. Research says around like 18 degrees, 19 degrees is the optimal temperature for sleeping. So trying to keep it as cold as you can. Avoiding heavy meals, because if you're digesting food, your body's going to be awake. It's not going to be focusing on sleep. But at the same time, you know, some people say don't eat 3 hours before bed. Sometimes it's good to have a little snack 30 minutes before bed. It'll help balance your blood sugar throughout the night. So that's half a banana and some peanut butter or some Greek yogurt or something not too heavy, but a lighter snack. And make sure you keep your bedroom only for sleep. Sleep and sex. That's what your bedroom is for. Nothing else, no TVs. It's great because you won't need a very big bedroom. You just need a bed in it. That'll keep so that when you're in bed, you're not thinking of other things, and your body knows that when you're in bed, you're sleeping. So that's the sleep hygiene part. So on to the next R. So we have regular exercise. So exercise is the great way to wake up in the morning. Get moving. So how much should we be doing? You know, the basic amount you should be doing is 150 minutes a week. That's 30 minutes most days. Most of my patients don't get that in. They just can't. They're too busy. It's not a priority. It's not on the list. And I understand it's hard to go work out. Then you have to shower. Then you have to get ready. It's not just an hour. It's going to be 2 hours, 3 hours out of your day to go exercise. But it's really important to get some type of exercise. So what kind? A moderate aerobic activity. So that's anything that's going to get your heartbeat pumping. Vigorous activity is really good. So like you should do that at least twice a week. So that's HIITs, like high interval training, running, biking, spinning, CrossFit, something like that that's going to get you sweating a lot. And most importantly, do something you like. So don't just go to a gym because you feel like you need to be there. There's a million types of exercise. There's one-on-one, there's group training, there's spinning in the dark, there's all these types. So do something that you like because you want to do it. And also walking counts. So steps count. I always ask everyone to try and get at least 7,000 steps a day. I think like the average in Canada is like 5,000 steps a day. So at least get that. 10,000 would be great. And living downtown Toronto, it's not that hard to get walking in. Maybe not great in the winter, but in the summer, it's super easy to do. There was a study actually for personal training, and they did once a week for 10 weeks of supervised personal training, and it improved their energy levels regardless of why they were tired. So this is great. And we already know this, but it's nice to see it in a study that was done. Also, best time to exercise, morning, early afternoon, not right before bed. So why would you want to exercise? Sleep. But why does it help your sleep? It's because it helps regulate hormones, which is really important. It helps manage cortisol levels, reduces PMS symptoms and cramps. So that one time a month when it's not great, exercise is really good to do all the time. Helps with digestion. So if you're feeling constipated and you want your bowels to start moving, then you need to start moving your body because that'll kind of get everything going. Mood, it helps circulate oxygen and blood to your brain, which is really important because that'll help get endorphins. So you get the runner's high. That'll also help get like melatonin, everything that goes to your brain to help you sleep and regulate sleep better. So, oh, I keep doing that. So there's this YouTube video. It's actually by a doctor, Dr. Mike Evans from U of T Medicine. But he did this great, it's a really short video, but he goes through and he highlights it, and it's fun to watch all the research on exercise and why it's good for you. So it's not just sleep, it helps with mood, it helps with a million other things. Not as great for weight loss as some people will use it for, but it helps with everything else. So if you have time, and I can maybe send out the link for this video, but it's a really great one to watch. So how do you get the exercise in your day? If you can't get to the gym for an hour, there was a study that was done on something called exercise snacks. So you break up the 30 minutes throughout your day, and it was just as beneficial for the health outcomes as doing, your hour workout or your 30-minute workout. So you could either do things like running up the stairs, or you don't even have to break a full sweat as long as it's getting your heart rate up. So if you jumped on an exercise bike and pedaled as fast as you could for 30 seconds, and you did that 4 times throughout your day, that would be just as beneficial. You get the same benefit out of it from a energy and sleep perspective. Push-ups, squats, jumping jacks. These are all things you can kind of do in your office or at home. If you work from home, it's really easy to do. Skipping, if you skip for 5 minutes, you definitely get your heart rate up. So these are things that are really easy to do. You don't have to do it all at once. It doesn't have to take 3 hours out of your day. There's a video on Instagram. It's by Stacey Irving. She's one of the chiropractors at Totem. She did this great interview, and it's on her Instagram page. She called it the Muskoka chair workout, where you can do it at a cottage, and she did push-ups and all these exercises just with a Muskoka chair, and she even had like a glass of wine on the side of the chair just to show that you can do it at any time. And it's really good to add it in if you can. Okay. So now that we've gone through deficiencies, exercise, sleep, reassessing your diet. So making sure you're eating the proper foods for energy. So there's 3 main macronutrients that are really important for energy. The one is carbohydrates. So not sugar, which can definitely give you an energy boost, but complex carbohydrates. So they're really important because they provide immediate energy for your cells and your tissues. Really helps boost mood. So carbohydrates are actually a precursor for serotonin, which is actually a precursor to help your body make melatonin. So it'll help you sleep, and it helps with your mood. So eating carbs is good. If you're on a ketogenic diet, we can tailor it a little bit differently. So your body's working off of ketones, which is a bit different. But generally speaking, carbohydrates are good, and people sometimes just they're too low in carb. They don't need to be that low, and they can get it in their diet, and you can tailor it a bit different if they're doing it for weight reasons. How much should you get? You should probably be getting, for most people, so 1 serving is half a cup cooked. That's quinoa, brown rice, sweet potato. Try and get at least 2 servings a day, maybe even 1. At least 1, and if you're going to do it, I would do it with dinner so that it can help with the production of melatonin and kind of calm you down for the rest of the night. Another one that's really important for energy is fat. So fat it's like the secondary energy source for your body. If you're on the ketogenic diet, it's your primary source for energy. It's essential for building hormones, and cortisol and melatonin are hormones. So we want to make sure your body is able to make them properly. It's also really important for hair and skin health. People will always come in and ask how they can make their hair and skin better. Healthy fats, and they're anti-inflammatory, which is also very important for your body, for especially for brain health and mood. How much should you be getting? I just say with fats, it's interesting because every fat food has a different serving size. So just get something with each meal, whether it's a handful of nuts, a little bit of avocado, guacamole. Just pour a teaspoon of olive oil on whatever you're eating. Get it with everything you're eating so that you can make sure you're getting enough. And of course, protein. Most people are good with protein. Actually, they kind of overeat protein. You only need about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. So it's based on your weight. That's how much protein you should be eating. So let's say you weigh 50 kilograms. You should only be eating like 40 grams of protein, which would be 2 chicken breasts or like a little bit of beans and tofu and some Greek yogurt. So it's not a ton. It's not the primary ones for me. Fat and carbs are usually more that I'm going to look at for your energy, but making sure you're getting protein will keep you hungry and stop you from snacking on foods that will crash your energy later in the day. So you should be getting about 15 grams of protein from animal or plants at each meal, and probably with snacks too would be a good one. And the last one, which is not really a food, but it's super important, is water. You want to be getting 2 to 3 liters of water a day. So I always say, it's always tricky because people will say, they try to get water in, they just forget, or they're too busy and they don't have time to go drink it. There's a lot of little tricks. You can get apps on your phone that will remind you. You can do one thing that I had a patient do. You put elastic bands around your wrist, and then every time you fill up your water bottle, you put the elastic band on your water bottle. So you'll look down at your wrist and you'll see, oh, I still have 3 elastic bands there. I haven't drank all the water I need to drink in a day. So that's one way you can remember. Or you can just make it part of your daily routine. So when you wake up first thing in the morning, first thing you should do is expose yourself to light. So have light therapy, or go outside, or open your windows, and then have 500 milliliters of water. Half a liter of water, preferably room temperature or warm, or if you want to do hot water and lemon, anything that's going to hydrate your body because it's dehydrated from overnight. And then with every meal you have, try and have a big glass of water. So you don't really have to think about it outside of eating and getting up. So that even just there, you'll probably be getting 2 liters of water without even thinking about it. So why water is so important? Every time you eat carbohydrates or protein, for your body to actually break the carbohydrates and protein down into amino acids or into glycogen or to glucose, you physically, biochemically need water molecules to break those bonds apart. So if you're dehydrated, you won't actually get all the energy from your food that you need. So that's why, from an energy perspective, I think water is so important. It also helps with detoxing.
Do you believe in eating for your blood type? Is that a thing that comes up when you're doing the ancestral, like DNA stuff and anything like that?
It doesn't come up with genetic testing. That's a good association, though. I actually, that's a really good book. It has really good research behind it. I don't use it in practice, but if a patient comes in and says they're eating that way and they feel great, I'm just gonna let it be, because it's a whole food diet. I usually focus more when I'm tailoring a diet to a patient on food sensitivities.
Yeah. And inflammatory foods and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, especially there's a blood test for food sensitivities, which I do a lot. And I find a lot of people get a huge benefit from it, from digestion to mood even. So that's a really important one.
Cool.
Yeah. So some foods to include, which I feel like everybody knows to eat vegetables. Everyone tries to eat vegetables, but I really need to stress the importance of cruciferous vegetables in particular. So these are like broccoli, cauliflower, all the ones that when you cook, they have a nice little odorous smell because they're full of sulfur. And sulfur helps your liver detox. So it'll help kind of process hormones, helps your bowels. So everything in that way will help with your energy. And they're also packed with antioxidants and vitamins, folic acid. And when it comes to vegetables, I always say have some with every single meal, even breakfast, even if it's in your smoothie or you're having sauteed spinach with eggs or something like that. And eat the rainbow. So eat all the colors of the vegetables that you can. Healthy fats. So we went over some examples. MCT oil, people will add that to their coffee if you're doing bulletproof coffee. Hemp hearts, coconut oil, salmon, if you can get it wild is better. Protein, so all the types of proteins you can have, lentils, chickpeas. Hemp hearts and pumpkin seeds are actually very high in protein, so you can add those to things, to yogurt, to salads, and get a little bit more. Carbs, you'd want to do whole carbs, and just for purpose I put gluten-free carbs, but if you eat gluten and you feel fine, then that's okay. But fruits are important. They're also high in sugar, so you don't want to be snacking on fruits all day long because they are high in sugar, so they'll spike your insulin level and then it'll drop, and then you'll kind of have an energy crash. So if you're going to have fruits, I would have maybe protein with it, or just have like a handful of nuts instead. Things you can have, definitely like all types of hummus. Those are all good to have for energy. Drinks, so water, herbal tea, green tea in particular, and matcha are really good. They have a little bit of caffeine in them, so they'll give you a bit of energy. But they also have other nutrients in them, L-theanine, that can help you focus. So they don't make you feel wired, but they can help you give energy and then also increase kind of alpha brainwaves, is what the studies have said, which help you focus a little bit more. And also treats. So dark chocolate is a great one with energy in that midday. Energy balls, you can make them. Midday snack bars, they're a brand of bar that just came out, super clean. I really like them. So I always tell people to get those ones. And just,
I want to ask a question too about water. So a question has come up in the group chat. You had mentioned warm water or like room temperature. Can you talk about the effects of cold water and why warm temperature is better?
Yeah, so, well, cold water, just because it's going to shock your digestive system. So you don't want to shock the muscles in your digestive system, because when something is shocked, the blood's going to go away from the muscles, and that's not what we want. We want blood to come to your digestive system, so that's going to help with digestion. So the muscles in your small intestine, your large intestine, if you have cold water, it'll just push all the blood away, and it'll shock it, and it'll kind of spasm or freeze, and it won't be doing what it should be. Also, it's easier absorbed. And in Chinese medicine, cold is not what you want in the first thing in the morning, or if you're dehydrated, you want warm to warm your system. It's more yin, especially in the winter. It's better on your body. You're already exposed to the cold temperature, so you want something that's going to warm your body up. So I hope that helped answer. Okay. I just wanted to throw this slide in here, tied to energy. If you're going to be eating more vegetables and fruits, it's really important to think about what's clean. So sometimes I get the question, should I eat organic? If you can, yes, but some foods in particular, you should definitely eat organic if you can. So the Environmental Working Group is a really great website if you ever go to it, but they release every year called the Dirty Dozen. So it's the top foods that are highest in pesticide and like the dirtiest food that you would definitely want to get organic if you can. So strawberries is always number one. Spinach, kale. So these are things, if you're in the grocery store, try and get them organic. You can, on their website, you can get a little printout for your wallet so you can keep it, or you can put it on your phone. And then the clean 15 are foods that, if you don't want to buy organic, you don't want to spend more money, then that's fine. You can get those ones and it's good, just if you're going to be eating more vegetables. So the foods to avoid, of course, these kind of, they make sense of why you would want to eat them. So processed foods you don't want to eat because, one, they're lower in nutrients, even though they're fortified with B vitamins and everything. But when you're eating processed foods like breads, Wonder Bread, muffins, donuts, boxed foods, it actually depletes nutrients from your body because it uses up B vitamins when you're digesting them. So they're kind of negative nutrients. So you don't want to be eating those. They also spike your insulin level, and then that drops, and then you get a crash in your energy. Saturated and trans fats, this has been shown to be more and more bad for cardiovascular health, but also they're very inflammatory. So we don't want those for energy. High glycemic fruits, so bananas, melons, essentially ones that are higher in sugar and lower in fiber, are going to, again, spike your insulin levels, and then they'll drop really quickly, and you'll be really hungry, and you'll probably get really, really tired. So we don't want any of those foods. Sugar. So sugar is a big one. You should be getting no less, or at maximum, 30 grams of sugar a day. So that's including fruit. So for instance, in a banana, there's like 12 grams of sugar. So that's already a third of your sugar in the banana. And then you have sugar in your coffee. And then you have a muffin for breakfast. And so it can quickly add up. People are eating upwards of 100 grams of sugar a day easily. And that's not even really an unhealthy diet. It's just because it's showing up in sauces and marinades and everything. So being aware of sugar, even natural sugars, is really important for energy. So food sensitivities. I had mentioned the food sensitivity test. So food sensitivities are not allergies. These are foods that are either hard to digest for your body. Your immune system is overreacting to them. So it's causing kind of like an inflammation, like a low-grade inflammation in your body. And this can really cause a lot of fatigue. So when I do the food sensitivity test, it measures antibodies in your blood that are reacting to certain food proteins. So we get the results back. We cut the foods out for 3 to 6 weeks, sometimes up to 3 months if people are feeling really good. And then we bring them all back in one at a time and challenge them to see how they're affecting your body. But I see this is great for kickstarting weight loss, but really boosting energy is key because you're eating specifically for your body. And food sensitivities change throughout your life depending on what you're eating, what your diet is. But I like to use that one a lot. Alcohol obviously will really make you tired by depleting B vitamins. It dehydrates you. So if you do drink alcohol, because the holiday season is coming up, making sure you're supplementing with B vitamins or getting in an IV. So you can get an IV pre and post. If you know you're going to go to a big event, that's a really good way to kind of mitigate the deficiencies. So, you know what food you should eat and why you should eat them. Examples would be like for breakfast, if you're eating breakfast and you're not intermittent fasting, a smoothie, eggs, so you're getting protein. Greek yogurt is a good protein with berries, chia pudding. If you're going to have oats for breakfast, try and add in some protein. So hemp hearts or collagen protein powder, just something so you're not just getting a bowl of carbs. Lunch, leftovers from dinner, salad with protein. You can try, if you're trying to do lower carb, you can do a keto bun, which is a brand. It's called the Unbun. It's really great, high in protein and fiber. Dinner, you always want to try and make dinner half your plate is vegetables. So whether that's broccoli, asparagus, anything like that, a little bit of carb and then some protein. So that's kind of what your meal ideas would be. Snacks, you want to try and keep them higher protein and fat so that you can maintain your energies throughout the day. So dried chickpeas, dried lima beans. The Good Bean is a company that makes really good ones. A handful of nuts, guacamole and rice crackers. Bone broth is actually a really good one. It's liquid, but it's actually high in minerals, collagen. It's really good at healing your gut. So if you do live downtown Toronto, Impact Kitchen does like a bone broth. You can make your own. You can buy it at health food stores now in the cold food section. So that's a really good snack. But overall, when it comes to diet, like Vanessa said, there's so many types of diets. Paleo, are you doing vegetarian, vegan, keto? I don't really think one is best for anybody. I usually work with the person on one, why they want to do the diet. And if they truly want to do it, then I'll work with them so it works for them. But my motto for food and how I eat is usually eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. I saw that in a really great documentary and it really resonated with me by Michael Pollan. And I don't think we should demonize any food. I think certain foods are better. As long as it's real food, it's good for me. So the last R of my R strategy for energy is rest and recharge. So even if we're doing everything else, we need to, recharge your battery. And I think this is one that's going to be really important going into holiday season because you'll be really busy. So let's go over. So things to remember is to I'm going to pull up my notes. Make sure you're being realistic about your to-do list. So you're going to have a lot of things to do, buying gifts, getting ready, deadlines at work, making your to-do list doable. Maybe focus on one or two main things that you're going to get done in that day. And keep in mind that it usually takes most people 30% longer to do something than they think. So they'll schedule in an hour to do this one task. It actually takes you 2 hours. And then by the end of the day, you feel like you did nothing. That's really important. Try not to multitask. So try not to get a million things done at once. Women are famous for multitasking. They're doing a million things all the time, but we're actually not wired to do that. So it's better to focus on one thing, get it done. Also, when you're doing something, try and focus. If you're jumping back and forth between two things, when you transition from one something you're doing and transition to something else, there's about like a 20-minute downtime on average for people when they're switching between activities. So that's time that you could be doing and spending on something else. Tackle distractions. So if you're trying to rest, try not to be distracted, do a no social media day, unplug from Instagram. This webinar is great and it's great to watch, but sometimes it's good to make sure there's nothing that's going to bother you. So if you have work to do or you have something to get done, do it first thing in the morning before you even log into any of your social media or anything like that. Get it done and then you can kind of do all those other things. Take breaks. You might feel like you have a million things to do, but unless you take breaks, you won't be as productive. talk therapy is huge. So resting and recharging doesn't have to be by yourself. If you're more extroverted, you want to be with other people, you want to talk to a therapist, you just need to vent and have an outlet. That's really important to release stress, to rest your mind, so that you can sleep better and have more energy. And it's really important to carve out time for yourself, whether that's your acupuncture treatment with a naturopath, whether you're doing massage therapy, you want to go for a facial. Sometimes you feel guilty about treating yourself, but self-care is not a luxury, it's a necessity for your energy. So we really need to get that in. Also, ask yourself, sometimes we forget as we get older and we're so busy and we're doing a million things. What do you like to do? Like, what do you enjoy doing? What brings you joy? What gets you into that mood of like flow, what they call it, where you're not thinking anymore and you're just doing something? Is it painting? Is it art? Is it music? Try and do that and do something that makes you feel good. 20 minutes a week is not a lot. Try and do that. If you have to put it in your schedule, Friday afternoon, you're going to do something, that's really important, and it'll help with your energy and your mood throughout the week. So we kind of went through the 5 R's. We'll recap them at the end, but I wanted to touch a little bit on IV therapy. So IV stands for intravenous nutrient therapy, and I use it a lot for energy because absorption is really good. So because it's bypassing your digestive system, the nutrients don't have to get absorbed. So all of it's available to your cells and your tissues. It doesn't have to be processed by your liver. So a lot of vitamins and supplements we're taking need to actually be activated by your liver before they start working. So they're not the active form in the actual supplement. So we're giving you the active form directly into your blood. It's higher doses than you can take orally. So for example, vitamin C, you take maybe like max 3 grams of vitamin C by mouth if you're feeling sick. In an IV, we can do up to 50, 80 grams of vitamin C. So it's giving your body a lot more if you're feeling sick. If you're run down, it's really good. So it helps kind of boost up energy levels. And it's important because in studies, it's been shown to help actually raise serum levels of these nutrients. So it's not just going in you and going right out of you and you're just peeing it. It's actually your body's holding on to it. It's time friendly. So it takes 30 minutes. If we do a smaller bag, it can take 20 minutes. If we do a bigger bag, it can take up to an hour. I usually recommend in practice doing it once a week, once every 2 weeks, and give it a few months before it really starts to give you a benefit. Some people feel a huge boost right away. Some people it takes 4 times where they start to feel better. Or you can do it as needed. So if you just feel like you're really, really tired, or you had that big night out and you just want to come in and get something, it's really great to do. So what's in our IVs is B vitamins. Specifically, we put all of them, but we put a lot more of B12, B6, B5, which is really good for your adrenal function and stress. Magnesium, which is really good at calming the nervous system, and we're all depleted in magnesium, so it's a really great one for sleep too and for energy. Zinc, selenium, which is good for your immune system. Vitamin C, also very good to help with stress hormones. So so that's kind of what's in it. It's called the Myers cocktail. I think it's funny. It's called a cocktail. It's not a drink at happy hour. It's an IV drip. So that's the kind of basic one we do, and then we kind of tailor it based on the person and if they need more of certain things. Zinc and selenium is great for thyroid function. So if we're going to boost thyroid hormones, we're going to give more of that, and so forth. So just to recap for energy, I kind of based it on the main reasons people are low in energy. So ruling out deficiencies is number 1, making sure you're getting enough sleep. So even if you're doing all the sleep hygiene properly and you're still not sleeping, then we can use more herbs. So we can use like valerian, passion flower, things that are actually going to get you to sleep. L-theanine. There's so many supplements that can help you with sleep, but we usually use those after we've tried sleep hygiene and some other things. Waking up with exercise, very important. Reassessing your diet, making sure you're getting everything you should be. Food sensitivity testing is really important. And then resting and recharging. So that's kind of all I had to talk about for today. I don't know if there's any more questions, but yeah.
If you ladies have any other questions, come on in. What is the average cost if someone wants to come in over the holidays and do an IV? Do you have any specials or anything that people can take advantage of?
We don't have any specials, but how we do IVs is if you're coming in purely for an IV, we would do what they call an IV initial assessment, because we do need to screen and make sure there's no interactions, make sure your liver and kidney function are working properly if we're going to be giving you high doses of nutrients. So we'd run some blood work, I'd do some physical exams. We do all that in the initial. The initial is 165. And that's all covered under naturopathic medicine. So if you have coverage to use up before the end of the year,
Yeah, cool.
way to use it. And then after that, in the first visit, we give a little mini IV just to test things out, see how you feel with it. And then after that, the IVs range from 150 to 250, depending on how big they are. And again, covered under naturopath. So it's good to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And reach out to Melissa. Melissa also does consultations, a 15-minute consult. So I will put the link. You can reach out to her here if you want to chat with her specifically about whatever's coming up for you right now and what you may want to tackle, so that you can feel your best going into 2020. We do have another question. Any specials, discounts, consultation fee? Yeah, perfect. So reach out to Dr. Melissa. She'll help you in a free 15-minute consult and kind of set you up and guide you as to what the best course of action is for you and whatever you're going through. And yeah, honestly, even ending on rest and restoration. What was the last word? Rest and recharge.
Yeah.
You ladies just being here, watching this webinar, you're investing in yourself and your own health. And so you're definitely taking a step in the right direction to a better understanding your body and making sure that you feel your best. So lots of comments coming in saying it was super helpful. So thank you so much for being here, ladies.
I'm actually I don't know if you can send it or put it on the website, Vanessa. I made a little PDF of summary of the presentation, and then also a little chart that you can kind of use as a weekly basis, and you can check off things on the chart to make sure you're kind of hitting your goals of what you can do.
Yeah, send it to me and then I'll put it on the website and put it in the link of this video as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Thanks so much, ladies. Have a wonderful evening and we will see you next week. Bye.